All right, today we're digging into one of history's greatest puzzles, the lost cities of the Indus. I mean, just try to imagine it. A society with meticulously planned cities, incredible technology, and a trade network stretching for thousands of miles, thriving for centuries. And then poof, they just disappear from the historical record, totally forgotten for almost 4,000 years. You see, for the longest time, the history of India was thought to have started much, much later. But then, in 1921, an archaeological find completely shattered that idea, unearthing a massive, ancient city and pushing the timeline of civilization in that region back by millennia. And this wasn't just some small settlement they stumbled upon. No, this was a vast, sophisticated civilization that nobody, and I mean nobody, even knew existed. It was like finding a massive, ancient urban puzzle that challenged everything historians thought they knew. This discovery just completely flipped the script. The long-held belief was that history in the region really kicked off with the arrival of the Aryans, but this find, it proved that a highly developed, city-dwelling culture, we now call it the Harappan civilization, was already flourishing long before that, standing as an equal to the great ancient civilizations of Egypt and Mesopotamia. But what really, really blew archaeologists away was the sheer sophistication of their cities. Their urban planning felt like it was from a completely different, much later era. So unlike the cities in Mesopotamia, which often grew in a more circular, organic way around a central temple, Harappan cities like Mohenjo-daro were laid out on a precise grid. We're talking straight streets crossing at perfect 90-degree angles. It's like a modern chessboard, but built over 4,500 years ago. Just incredible. And as brilliant as their street layout was, their greatest engineering achievement was something you couldn't even see it from the surface. They basically perfected public sanitation with this amazing multi-level drainage system that would have been the envy of London or Paris thousands of years later. Every single house had its own bathroom and drains that all connected to a larger, covered municipal network. This wasn't just a ditch on the side of the road. It was a complex, underground system designed for public health. To really put this into perspective, just look at how their features stack up against our own modern cities. A grid system for city layouts? Check. Underground sewage? Check. They even use standardized baked bricks for construction. These are foundational concepts for urban life as we know it today. And they were doing it all back in the Bronze Age. They were truly, truly ahead of their time. So we know they were master planners and engineers. But what was life actually like for the people living in these incredible cities? Well, the artifacts they left behind give us some really fascinating clues. One of the most famous structures they found is the Great Bath at Mohenjo-daro. And let me tell you, this was not just some hole in the ground. It was a massive, rectangular tank, perfectly lined with bricks and sealed with natural tar to make it completely watertight. The level of precision engineering here was just absolutely top tier. But what was it for? That is still a huge debate among scholars. Was it some kind of luxurious public pool for the city's elite? Or was it a sacred site used for important religious ceremonies and ritual bathing? Its sheer uniqueness suggests it held a very special place in their society. And other objects tell such a rich story. We have this famous stone sculpture of a bearded man, often called the Priest King, that shows incredible artistic skill. Then there's the iconic bronze dancing girl, a little masterpiece that proves they had an advanced knowledge of metalworking. And even simple, everyday items like needles and buttons tell us that weaving and making textiles were a huge part of their life and their economy. But for everything that we've learned from their cities and their art, the Harappans are still holding on to one of their biggest secrets. And it's hiding in plain sight: their writing. Get this, archaeologists have found thousands of artifacts inscribed with a unique script. It's made up of about 400 distinct symbols, and after a full century of study, we still can't read a single word. Not one. So, here's what we do know. The script is pictographic, which means it uses stylized images, birds, fish, people. You usually find it on these small square seals made of stone. We also figured out it was written from right to left. And what's really fascinating is that because these inscriptions pop up on so many different everyday items, some scholars believe literacy wasn't just for priests or kings. It might have been surprisingly common. So what were these little seals used for? Well, a great way to think of them is as ancient QR codes. Seriously. A trader would stamp a seal onto a piece of clay on a bundle of goods. It basically marked ownership and proved that the package hadn't been tampered with. The fact that we've found these exact seals all the way over in Mesopotamia just tells you how vast and sophisticated their trade network really was. Which brings us to the final and maybe the greatest mystery of all. Around 1900 B.C.E., this vibrant, organized, and widespread civilization just began to fall apart. Eventually, it disappeared. Why? What happened? Well, there are several leading theories. An older idea that they were wiped out by a massive invasion is, well, it's not as accepted by historians anymore. Today, the evidence seems to point more towards some kind of environmental catastrophe. And it probably wasn't just one thing. It could have been a perfect storm of disasters, massive earthquakes that shifted the course of rivers, severe floods that literally buried cities, or maybe a long period of climate change that led to drought and the collapse of their entire agricultural system. In the end, it was likely not one single event, but a whole cascade of environmental pressures that this incredibly resilient civilization just couldn't overcome. Their great cities were abandoned, and their knowledge, including the key to their own language, was lost to time. The story of the Harappans really leaves us with a final, powerful question. They built a world of astonishing complexity, a world on par with ancient Egypt, and yet they were completely forgotten. It just makes you wonder, what other stories, what other entire civilizations are still out there, waiting to be discovered, hidden right under our feet?